this video, we're going to be talking about removing and adding weft into your wig as a means of shifting volume, creating more volume, or decreasing volume in certain parts of your wig. So the first thing I want us to look at with this wig, and you can see that weft hair has actually been removed from this wig already pretty excessively, but this is what we're talking about with weft hair, right? We're talking about this chain of hair that has been sewn into the wig base, right? So the wig base is this netted portion here, and then this chain of hair is what we're going to be removing or adding more into, okay? So in order to do that, I do tend to keep my wig back on my head form. I find that it makes it a little bit easier to see the weft hair. You can work with this in your lap if that's easier for you, but I do like to keep it on the head form. So I'm gonna put it on the form first. The other thing I've got here are some duck clips, and with those duck clips, I'm just gonna kind of hold this hair away from what I'm working with as far as the weft, the particular weft that I'm looking to remove. And that way I don't have to deal with all the hair. It's just up out of my face, no problems there. So we still need to block our wig as best we can. Anytime we have the wig on a head form, it needs to be blocked securely in place. So in order to remove weft hair from a wig, we are going to be using our seam ripper. Some people actually just go in and kind of cut weft hair out. I think that's really dangerous. I think you're probably going to end up cutting your wig base by accident. So I strongly suggest just using your seam ripper to get that taken care of. So we're going to just pop these seams out. And I'm gonna start as close over here to the edge as I can get to kind of show you guys what I mean. You'll see that it has been machine stitched in place. So I'm just ripping the stitching. I'm trying my best not to rip the actual wig base. You want your wig base to stay intact. Do not rip your wig base open. Just rip out the stitching that is attaching the weft hair to the wig base. So you can see that I've started the process of removing that weft hair, and it comes out pretty easily once you actually get going. I can just sit here and kind of pull it out. So let's say then I wanted to remove this piece of weft hair and add it back in someplace else, right? Well, now I'm going to take my curved needle and some thread, and I'm going to get that done. So we're going to use our curved needle and some thread to stitch the weft hair back into place, or into any desired place that we want. My needle is double threaded here. And then the other thing I want to have you keep in mind is that you want to be sewing with thread that relatively matches the wig color that you're working with. It doesn't have to be spot on exact, but it's very helpful if it actually matches. Looking back now at this here, you can see that all I've done to hold the weft in place is I just picked up another blocking pin and kind of pulled it over across. Again, another reason why I like to work on the wig form, or the head form, excuse me, is it just kind of makes this process a little bit easier. So we're gonna go back to this original place here. And again, we're just gonna be using the whip stitch. So we're gonna be putting, obviously, this in by hand. So we're gonna pull our curved needle all the way through, and all we're doing is whip stitching through the top or the serged portion. If you understand what serging is, this little band here that you're seeing, that's essentially something that's been serged together. And that's the only part that you're stitching through. as you're putting it back into your base, okay? So keep that in mind. You don't really want to stitch through the hair. It's not gonna, one, hold your stitch, and it might pull the hair in kind of a weird way. So make sure you're only stitching through the actual serged portion of your weft hair. And you can see I'm kind of working it like a 1/4 inch stitch, maybe even a 1/2 inch stitch. And I'm just going to keep taking my blocking pin and kind of pulling it around and making it taut so that my line of my serged edge of the weft hair is also still taut. And that is essentially the whole process of adding weft hair back into your wig base. So if I wanted to add more volume in, let's talk about that while I'm finishing this up. So let's say I like the amount of hair. I don't necessarily want to remove hair. I want to add in more hair. I want to create more volume. Well, then that's when you're going to go to your other wig, the one that's not really functioning as your base, and you're going to remove weft hair from that wig and then add it into the space between rows of weft hair in what you think of as like your base wig, right? So I could go back and take weft hair. I could take it from another part of this wig, or if I have a duplicate wig, I can take it from that and I can add it into like this space here, right? So by doubling up on my weft hair in certain, or my weft rows, I should say, in these sort of open spaces, I'm inherently creating more volume. So again, be mindful of that in terms of where you're placing this additional hair. If you're adding weft hair into the crown or the base, the back, excuse me, then you're probably gonna end up getting a lot more volume in terms of length. If you're adding weft hair into the sides, then you're gonna get volume kind of moving horizontally out from the wig, right, as opposed to vertically. So be really conscious of that when you're choosing to add weft hair back in. But that's essentially the process. It's pretty simple. It's just removing it with the seam ripper or adding it back in with your curved needle and some thread. So have fun with that.